This chocolate brownie looks good enough to eat. But, to my surprise, it wasn't the coffee mocha latte that brought a visitor out to nibble on the soap scraps behind my sink. Of all the delicious smells and flavors, he keeps running to only one piece of soap. And if you stick around till the end, I'll tell you which fragrance attracted him and what I did about it. Have you ever had a fragrance oil that you love to use, but it's so difficult to work with you know that it's bound to ruin any project that you have in mind? Well, today I'm going to use Coffee Latte, and this fragrance accelerates so fast that it almost seizes before you can get your soap poured. Now, because this fragrance is so delicious, I use it in lotions and sugar scrubs, but I don't soap with it as often as I'd like, because my bars would have to be so plain. And today I'm going to create a bar around the fragrance that makes my soap accelerate too quickly, and in general it's just likely to behave badly. So instead of pouring just a single colored soap, I'm going to try to get a mocha latte fudge brownie with layers of cream and chocolate. The idea is to create the design knowing what's in store and get a look I can achieve instead of trying to make it do something that it probably won't. From the start, this recipe is coming together very nicely. All of our hard oils have been blended down into the soft oils, and we're gently adding our lye water solution. I've added my stick blender, and we're going to blend this until it emulsifies to a nice light trace. And so far, everything looks great. In just a moment, things are about to start moving much faster. Here, I'm adding coffee mocha from Crafter's Choice. Now this does contain vanilla, and it will darken the soap, and we do have a nice light cream, and I'd like to maintain the integrity of that cream color, so we do have to add an equal part of vanilla stabilizer to this recipe. And most of our brownie is going to look chocolate or be a version of a layered chocolate, but we do want to keep that nice light creamy look, so we still have to add just the same amount of vanilla stabilizer as we would if this were a nice light bar of soap. Now we're going to separate 1 pound of soap, and I'm going to add Deep Russet from TBK. This is a beautiful smooth mica that blends very well, and I want a rich deep chocolate look to make it look like a thickened edge of chocolate at the very first bottom layer of our brownie. Now I'm mixing this up, but really my eyes are over on the larger bowl. Take a look at that ring that's forming on the outside of the bowl. My soap is seizing up as we speak at the moment. Now I'm going to be able to work with this, and I kind of have an idea of what to expect, but it doesn't always work out exactly the same way. So despite the fact that I'm working in the smaller bowl, we've got to start moving fast because that bigger bowl needs some action.
We can sit together. It's so beautiful, you and me.
This is turned into a nice creamy pudding, and it feels just like brownie mix. It also smells like brownie mix too. It would be identical. No one would know any different if they walked into my kitchen. I just want to coat this on the very bottom of my mold, and then we need to get over and start working with our other colors. Now I want a rich multi-chocolate look to this project. You might have noticed previously that I pre-mixed the titanium dioxide. As you can see by the soap in the bowls, only a minute has passed, and the texture is firming up just as you're watching it before your eyes. So we had the titanium dioxide ready to go so that we could get our cream color look already made. Our next chocolate, we're going to be using cocoa powder. And this will give you a variation of colors, and it's a natural colorant. And you can get anywhere from a nice light caramel to a deep, rich, dark chocolate. And I want to use different colors of brown in this brownie because I want to give us a nice textured, rich chocolate fudge look. So hopefully when we're done with this, we'll get a nice light latte caramel type look. And our third colorant is Swiss Chocolate Mica from TBK, and this will give us a nice variation of chocolates as well, but I'm using a full teaspoon, and I want a deep, rich baker's chocolate look. So you can see here as we work with it, I am loosening up the soap a little bit. It's not as thick as it was just a moment ago, and I'm going to keep working with it to make it nice and loose, because at this point I want to try to get some sort of brownie and fudge texture in here. Now we'll start off with our chocolate, and as you can see, the cocoa powder looks much different from the deep russet that we just used to pour our first layer. And I'm just gonna put this on top in globs. There's no way I would have been able to get a swirl out of this. It's just too thick, but we can still work with it. It's still nice and soft, and we're gonna try to pour a fudge layer. Now it's time for the cream filling, and it looks sort of like cream cheese, which worked out great. And I'm just filling in the gaps. I want to fill in any holes, anything that's left over, and we only have one more layer to put on top, so I do want this to start looking a little bit more even. So we're just gonna fill in the empty spaces and try to make sure that we have cream everywhere all over the entire top. Now I won't be using all of this because I still need some of the cream top to make my decorations. And our final layer on top is the Swiss Mocha, and we're going to just put it on and spread it around as if it were frosting on a cake. Now I chose the darker layer to put on top because this is going to be sort of our canvas for the decorations that we'll add. And so this nice dark layer will contrast against the cream and the latte look that I'm going to put in a minute.
Take a step back to see the truth around you. From a distance you can tell.
Now this is a 5-pound mold that's meant to make 16 bars at about 3.5 inches by 3 inches a piece. So I do have the little squares marked, which you can't see in the video. And the top design is I'm going to try to replicate the top of a latte coffee. And because we don't have a nice fluid liquid soap that we're working with, I kind of have to work with this a little bit to see if I'm able to achieve this. In an ideal situation, I could just kind of give it a little funnel dance swirl and then put my design in there, but we're working with the end of our recipe, and right now it's at its firmest that it's been. And the entire time, it's only been about 5 minutes that has passed, so this is accelerated very quickly, and I did very minimal mixing with this recipe. So I'll mark off all 16 pieces with a dollop of cream, and then I'll spread this out to take up some space. Then I'll start layering the caramel color and the cream on top and alternate these so I can try to get that look of a latte being poured with that frothy cream on top. Now you might wonder, if I want to buy a new fragrance oil online, or if I come across something that's interested me that I've never tried before, how do I know if it's going to behave well in my project or if it's going to turn into a seizing disaster? And oftentimes you won't know. You have to experiment and try it. But many of these fragrance oils have been around for several years. The first time I tried this one, Coffee Mocha, was probably about 4 years ago, and it did the exact same thing it did then that it does now. The only difference is now when I went to go buy it, I happened to notice on the product information page with Crafter's Choice that there were plenty of customer comments stating the exact same thing. So lots of people have this experience with this fragrance oil. And so that's something that you could do too while you're shopping for new fragrance oils, is just make sure you scroll down and you can take the time to read some comments if they're put there, and then notice if those comments are placed in 2014, 2012, 2009, and see if there's some consistency to the experience that people are having. And then that way you'll kind of get an idea of what you can expect. And just as we finish up, even as I try to pull through the design to bring it down, I'm just cutting through the soap and not really pulling through the design as I was hoping for. But that's okay. The project is complete, and it's time to give this 24 hours to firm up so that we can cut it and see what it looks like on the inside. And after a full day, here we have our tray of mocha coffee brownies. And each piece looks like it belongs in a case at the Cheesecake Factory. All those chocolate colorants came out so rich and beautiful, but the one that looks the best is the cocoa powder. Now, if you have a fragrance oil that you really love that occasionally seizes up on you or accelerates really fast, then tell me what that is in the comments box. And also, I'd like to know what it is that you do, how you design your bars around a fragrance oil that seizes up. Because you can make cakes and brownies and things like this that look absolutely gorgeous. But how do you handle a fragrance oil when you want to get a nice deep swirl into your bar? Let me know what your tips and tricks are, and I want to see if I can work with some of my more difficult oils, because believe it or not, Mocha coffee isn't the hardest oil to work with. It's just one that has pretty much a moderate rate of acceleration. So let me know what your thoughts are in regard to how you deal with accelerating fragrance oils. Have you thought twice about that little mouse I caught nibbling on the soaps in the back of my windowsill? Well, no worries for him. A few nights ago, I caught him in a live trap and I set him free out in the woods behind my house. So hopefully he'll stay out there with his little mice families and he'll live the rest of his days leaving my soap alone. But it was interesting that he only chose one soap to nibble on, and that was coconut. He didn't like any of the other fragrances, and there wasn't any particular reason that he was eating soap except that he mistook it for food. There's no nutritional value in that piece of cured soap, and there would be no reason that he would be wanting to eat that when he's in the kitchen and he's actually looking for food. None of the little mice have seemed to have gotten into my curing room, so they're not looking for soap. They're looking for cracker crumbs, but he found some coconut, and that's what happened.
You and me were meant to be.